Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Recipe of the Week. And this week we're going to be talking about beans, legumes, really good healthy stuff and hearty stuff for this winter. So last week was our first edition of a video Recipe of the Week, and the responses have been overwhelming. You guys obviously love it, which is great. So a lot of visual people out there like myself. So we'll keep going. And hey, I even put some makeup on for you this week, so didn't want to scare you. Okay, so as I said, we're going to talk about beans, and specifically we're going to talk about cannellini beans or white kidney beans. So most times you'll see them in the supermarkets in Canada labeled as white kidney beans, but often sometimes in the US or Australia where I've lived, you see them as cannellini beans. So interchangeable, same thing, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to make a side dish. Now this recipe started, I think it was like one Tuesday or Wednesday night a couple of years ago, and I'm staring blindly into the pantry thinking, what the heck am I going to serve as a side dish? Because often we know that we want to eat fish or chicken or beef or whatever it is, but you know, we sort of get into that rut as what we're going to put with it. So I came up with this sort of smashed cannellini beans because I love cannellini beans actually on crostini. I'm going to show you how you can use this recipe a couple of different ways, but we're going to use it as a side dish, okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to take a can of white kidney beans or cannellini beans. Now, I have drained and rinsed them, okay? Just drained them in a colander and put some cold water on top of it, because sometimes, you know, it's a little bit starchy and there's a lot of sodium in the preserves that they've got into the cans as well. So you want to make sure that you rinse that off. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small saucepan. You could use this in a fry pan or whatever you've got, but I'm going to take a small saucepan and I'm going to put it over sort of medium heat. I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil. Now you can use vegetable oil, canola oil, sunflower oil, anything that you want, rapeseed oil even, but I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil. I could use butter if I wanted to too, but I actually really like the flavor of the olive oil with this. And we're going to let this heat up. And usually, you know, actually recipes, they call for you want to heat your pan, then you want to heat your oil, then you want to add your ingredients. And the reason that you do that is if I would put an ingredient in this oil right now, it's going to absorb a lot of the oil because the oil is taking a long time to heat up. Okay, so that's why you want your oil to come up to a temperature where you can then add, and you're going to hear a little bit of that sizzle. So we're going to add a little bit of garlic. Okay, so I've crushed, can you hear it? Crushed about 2 cloves of garlic, okay? Now, you can use 1, you can use 3, you can use no garlic, it just depends, but we sort of like garlic in our family. So I'm just going to let that come, we'll just let it brown a little bit. Now, garlic burns really fast, so it may only take 30 seconds to a minute, so don't walk away, don't answer the phone now, don't pour yourself a glass of wine yet, okay? Just let that sort of get a little bit brown. I don't even think you can see it on there, but you know what I mean. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my drained cannellini beans. Turn that down to medium. And I'm just going to combine it a little bit with that olive oil and that sauteed garlic, okay? So it's not looking all that exciting yet. I'll get a little bit closer. But what we've got in here is a little bit of the cannellini beans. Now, what you're going to do from here is you're going to add some flavoring, okay? You can add a little bit of salt, and I'm going to use some crushed sea salt, and we're going to use some pepper, okay? Some freshly shaved pepper, and I'm also going to use, actually today an herb de Provence, which is a mixture of marjoram, thyme, basil, rosemary, but you could use dried rosemary, dried oregano, dried thyme. You're going to use about ½ a teaspoon worth. You could also use some fresh herbs, okay? Now I only had fresh parsley today. I didn't want to put parsley in here. I'm going to use that as a garnish, but if I had fresh rosemary, it would be beautiful. Strip it off the leaves, chop it up, throw it in. You could use oregano, you could use thyme, anything again. So fresh or dried. If you're using fresh, you'd probably use about a tablespoon of fresh. If you're using dried, you'd use about ½ a teaspoon, or really to taste, okay? So that's to 1 can of the cannellini beans. Now from here, what I want to do is I could add a little bit of chicken stock, I could add a little bit of white wine, I could add a little bit of water, okay? I can do any of those 2 things, but I don't really want it all that sort of mushy today. Totally up to you what you want to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a lemon juice. I love lots of lemon in this recipe, and what I'm using here is Meyer lemons. Now, Meyer lemons, you can use regular lemons, but if you can find Meyer lemons, love Meyer lemons. Cross between a mandarin orange, and a lemon. So it's sort of sweet and tart at the same time, just like me. So, and I love it when I use it in salad dressings or cocktails. And you can really, honest to God, you can eat the skin off of it. It's so sweet, it's beautiful. So I'm going to turn the heat off now. I'm going to add tons of lemon juice. I think my recipe calls for maybe half of a lemon, but I like it a lot, so I'm going to use a full. And then what I'm going to do is, if I can show you, I'm just going to mash it up with a fork, back of a fork. If you've got a potato masher, you can use a potato masher. Get in there and, you know, use a mortar and pestle. If you've got your pestle, you can do it that way. Or I just use the back of a fork. Because the consistency that I'm looking for is sort of like a mashed potato, but a lumpy mashed potato. You can do it as smooth as you want it. You could put this into a food processor and, you know, whiz it up if your kids don't like sort of lumps in their food. You never know sometimes, right? But all I'm going to do, and I'll show you in a second, is just sort of mash them up so that I still have some whole cannellini beans, but then I also have the rest of it to be a little bit smooth. Okay. Now I'm going to taste it. Yum. Need a little bit more salt, because don't forget I rinsed off a lot of that sodium that was in the can. A little bit more pepper. I can taste the lemon juice. It's gorgeous. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. This is how simple it is. So this is a great side dish, okay, that you can put with, you know, as I say, fish, chicken, pork, steak, whatever you want. Probably going to drizzle it with a little bit more olive oil, totally optional though. Maybe put a little bit of parsley on the top. I can chop it up, put it on top, depends on how fancy I want to be. And it's so simple and it's so good. So that's how quick it takes you. 5-10 minutes max. I would say that one can may do 2 to 3 servings, depending on if you're feeding kids or if you're feeding adults. My kids love this. It's a great substitute for mashed potatoes or a heavy starch like that. Tons and tons of fiber in here, so it's great for your diet as well. Lots of minerals and proteins, and low in fat. Now, I'm going to have this for lunch. Not going to just have a bowl like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some rye bread, I'm going to toast it up, and I'm going to put this on top. So sort of like a crostini. So those are a couple of different ways that you can use this recipe. You can put them on little crostinis and have them as, you know, an hors d'oeuvre. Really great, simple, and easy to do. And you can do this a couple of days in advance and put it in your fridge. You can have it room temperature, cold, warm, whatever you want. Or actually even like it sort of, as I say, for lunch. So I'll take some rye bread, put this on top, maybe a little bit of arugula, hit it with a little bit more pepper, and it's a great, great lunch as well. So white kidney beans, cannellini beans, mashed with some garlic, some lemon juice, herb of your choice, and it's beautiful and it's easy. Stare into that pantry, don't know what to make, simple. It's like $1.50 for your side dish for this week. So you can get this recipe, you're going to be able to print it off, but you're also going to be able to take a look at it online as you're doing it now and share it with your friends and have some fun. See you later.